Florence, the Duomo Cathedral piercing the sky, Michelangelo's David standing perfect in marble, Botticelli's Birth of Venus capturing divine beauty, the Renaissance, the awakening, the triumph of human creativity and enlightenment. This is what they taught you in school. This is what art history celebrates. This is the lie. These weren't artworks. These were propaganda, visual bribes, money laundering through marble and paint. Behind every masterpiece was a ledger. Behind every cathedral was a transaction. Behind every beautiful facade was the world's first global banking cartel. The Medici family didn't patronize art because they loved beauty. They financed culture to legitimize power, to clean dirty money, to turn financial domination into aesthetic glory. And their greatest product wasn't art. It was salvation. They literally sold heaven, packaged forgiveness, monetized fear of damnation. And they did it by becoming God's bankers, by controlling the Vatican's treasury, by making their own sons popes, by turning the church into a family business and spirituality into a revenue stream. This is Dark Money Historian, and this is the story of how the Renaissance was a PR campaign for history's most successful financial mafia. 1397, Giovanni de' Medici founds the Medici Bank in Florence. Not remarkable in itself. Lots of families ran banks. But Giovanni understood something others didn't. Money moves faster than armies. Credit conquers more territory than swords. And the most powerful client in the world isn't a king. It's the Catholic Church. The church had a problem. It collected revenue across all of Europe. Tithes from every parish, taxes from every diocese, fees for every ecclesiastical service. But moving physical gold and silver across borders was dangerous. Bandits, corrupt officials, lost shipments. They needed financial infrastructure. They needed bankers. Giovanni offered a solution. The Medici Bank would manage papal finances, collect church revenues, transfer funds internationally, handle the logistics of global Catholic commerce, and in exchange they'd take a cut, a percentage of every transaction, a fee for every service. This made the Medicis indispensable, not just to Florence, to the entire Catholic world. They controlled the flow of church money, knew every financial detail, every revenue stream, every expenditure. They became God's accountants, and whoever controls the accounting controls the organization. But they didn't just manage existing revenue. They helped create new products, new income streams. And the most profitable product they helped scale was indulgences, the sale of forgiveness, the monetization of salvation itself. Here's how it worked. Catholic doctrine said sinners went to purgatory, a temporary hell where souls suffered until purified enough for heaven. But the church offered a shortcut, indulgences, certificates that reduced your time in purgatory, or your dead relative's time. Pay money now, reduce suffering later, salvation as a purchasable commodity. The Medici Bank facilitated this trade, collected the payments, processed the transactions, distributed the certificates, and took their percentage. They were literally brokering deals between God and man, and profiting from both sides, selling fear to the living, selling hope to the desperate, selling heaven to anyone who could pay. This wasn't just profitable, it was revolutionary. They'd figured out how to monetize the infinite, how to sell something that cost nothing to produce, how to create demand through existential terror and satisfy it through paper promises. It was the perfect business model, and it made them richer than any European monarchy. But managing church money wasn't enough. The Medicis wanted more. They wanted inside control. They wanted to own the institution itself. So they did something unprecedented. They bought the papacy, multiple times, with their own sons, 1513. Giovanni de' Medici, son of Lorenzo the Magnificent, becomes Pope Leo X, not through divine calling, through family connections, bribes, and political maneuvering. A banking family puts their own member on the throne of St. Peter, the ultimate hostile takeover, corporate acquisition of spiritual authority. Leo X understood his role. He wasn't there to save souls. He was there to generate revenue, to finance Medici power, to build monuments to family glory. He had a massive project, rebuilding St. Peter's Basilica, the most ambitious construction in Christendom, and construction costs money, lots of money. So he weaponized indulgences, turned the sale of salvation into an aggressive marketing campaign, commissioned salesmen, sent them across Europe, gave them quotas, performance targets, commission structures. This wasn't religion. This was sales. And the pitch was visceral. The slogan became infamous. As soon as the coin in the coffer rings, the soul from purgatory springs. Pay us, and your dead mother escapes torment. Pay us, and your sins are forgiven. Pay us, and heaven is guaranteed. It was spiritual extortion backed by ecclesiastical authority. And it was incredibly profitable. But here's what Leo and the Medicis didn't anticipate. You can only monetize fear for so long before someone calls your bluff, before someone says the system is corrupt, before someone demands accountability, that someone was Martin Luther. 1517, Luther posts his 95 Theses. Not primarily about theology, about money, about the obscene commercialization of salvation. about Pope Leo Lex and his bankers treating spirituality like a commodity market, about indulgent salesmen operating like carnival barkers while claiming divine authority. Luther's complaint wasn't just moral, it was financial. He exposed the business model, showed how the church and its bankers were exploiting believers' fears for profit, how the system was designed to extract maximum revenue from minimum spiritual value, how salvation had become a financial product sold by bankers wearing papal crowns. The Protestant Reformation wasn't just theological disagreement, it was a consumer revolt against predatory spiritual capitalism, against the Medici business model that turned Christianity into a revenue-generating enterprise. And it worked. It split Christianity permanently, created competing religious products, ended the Catholic monopoly. The Medici banking papal empire eventually declined, but not before they'd fundamentally changed how power operates. They'd proven that controlling money is more powerful than controlling armies, that cultural legitimacy can be purchased through art and architecture, that institutions can be captured from within through strategic placement of family members. That fear is infinitely monetizable if packaged correctly. Look at the Medici legacy, the Florence you visit today, the art you admire, the architecture you photograph, all of it built with money extracted from terrified believers, financed by spiritual extortion, legitimized through aesthetic beauty. That cathedral, funded by selling heaven. That statue, commissioned with indulgence profits. That palace, built with money taken from people who feared eternal damnation. The Renaissance wasn't enlightenment, it was money laundering, cleaning spiritual exploitation through cultural production. And the Medici gold florin, that was the dollar of its era, the international reserve currency, accepted across Europe. Trusted because it was backed by papal finances, by church revenues, by the monetization of salvation itself. The Medicis didn't just run a bank, they ran the infrastructure of global Catholic commerce. They were the central bank before central banks existed. Now look at today. Look at modern billionaires. How do they legitimize wealth? How do they clean reputations? How do they acquire cultural capital and political influence? Philanthropy, foundations, art collections, museum wings with their names, universities endowed by their fortunes. Think that's different from Medici art patronage? It's identical. Same function, same mechanism, different century. They fund culture, support institutions, make strategic donations, get buildings named after them, transform financial power into social legitimacy, into cultural authority, into political influence. The Medicis wrote this playbook 600 years ago. Modern wealth is just following the script. And look at institutional capture. Wealthy families placing members on corporate boards, in government positions, in regulatory agencies, in media companies, in universities, buying influence through strategic placement, getting inside control of institutions that matter. That's the Medici model. Make your sons popes. Or in modern terms, make your family members decision makers in every important institution. Look at lobbying. Corporations buying political influence, funding campaigns, writing legislation, capturing regulatory agencies. That's just purchasing political authority, like the Medicis purchased ecclesiastical authority. Different institutions, same transaction. Money for power, power for more money. Look at how fear is monetized. Insurance companies selling protection from disaster. Security firms selling safety from threats. Pharmaceutical companies selling protection from disease. Tech companies selling protection from digital threats. All variations on selling peace of mind, monetizing anxiety. Same business model as indulgences, different products, identical psychology. The Medicis proved that power comes not from legitimate authority, but from financial control and cultural legitimacy. That you can buy institutions if you're patient and strategic. That you can package anything, even salvation, as a marketable product if you control the distribution and narrative. They turned the church into a family business, made their sons popes, weaponized art as propaganda, monetized salvation, and became the richest, most powerful family in Europe, not through conquest, through banking, through cultural production, through institutional capture. 600 years later, the mechanisms haven't changed, only the aesthetics. The Medicis commissioned Michelangelo. Modern billionaires fund TED Talks and innovation labs. The Medicis built cathedrals. Modern wealth builds campuses and research centers. The Medicis made their sons popes. Modern dynasties make their children board members and foundation heads. The Renaissance wasn't about human potential awakening. It was about financial power consolidating, about a banking family becoming so wealthy and influential they could rewrite culture itself, could turn spirituality into commerce, could make corruption beautiful, could package exploitation as enlightenment. Every time you admire Renaissance art, remember that beauty was financed by fear. Those masterpieces were propaganda. That cultural flowering was a banking cartel's PR campaign. The Medicis didn't elevate humanity. They monetized divinity And they did it so successfully, we still celebrate them as patrons of the arts, instead of recognizing them as the financial criminals who turned salvation into a product and spirituality into profit. This is Dark Money Historian. We follow the money to show you that history's greatest cultural achievements often have the darkest financial origins. The Medicis used art and religion to legitimize power. What do you think today's Medicis, the modern billionaires and corporations, use to achieve the same control? Is it Silicon Valley, media ownership, or philanthropic foundations? Let's discuss in the comments.